I'm Michi Bradley, and this is an update on the progress of the handling of LPFM applications from the 2023 Third Generation LPFM filing window, which was held last December. On March 15, 2024, the FCC released a public notice containing 109 groups of mutually exclusive, or MX, applications. This also opened up a 60-day period for which certain types of application amendments could be filed and will get priority consideration by the audio division staff. This includes minor engineering amendments and universal settlements involving all applicants in the MX group. This could also include universal timeshare agreements. This 60-day period has now ended, and during that time, there has been activity in 20 MX groups that either resulted in an applicant being able to break out of the MX group to become singleton, leaving the rest of the group behind, as well as those changes that resulted in the overall dissolution of the group. On today's episode, we will dig into those 20 groups and see what the application amendments did, how they will impact the group, and provide some revised predictions. Just keep in mind that these are the predictions that the FCC warned you about. REC predictions are just our general opinion based on the information that is before us following FCC policies and past precedents. The FCC is not obligated to follow these predictions, and the FCC's decisions are the only ones that will stand. Please use these predictions at your own risk. Let's start in Arizona with a 2-applicant MX group from Mount Lemmon, just north of Tucson. Because of the high elevation, both applicants are limited to 1 watt. Ministerios El Rey de Gloria was dismissed for a violation of the U.S.-Mexico agreement. Under the agreement, the 34 dBu interfering contour cannot exceed 32 kilometers in any direction that is within 125 kilometers of the Mexican border. Because Mount Lemmon Radio Club proposed a directional antenna, their 34 dB contour remains within the 32-kilometer radius within the narrow area that is within 125 kilometers of the border. The Ministerios application proposing a non-directional antenna violates the international agreement. Ministerios can be reinstated if they file an amendment before May 24. Even if they are reinstated, we have concerns about alien ownership, as the applicant has 3 out of 7 members who are not U.S. citizens, and no information has been filed to justify the weighted board where one member has more votes over another in a nonprofit environment. REC has an issue with these types of weighted boards in non-stock nonprofit situations, especially when alien ownership is involved. REC still calls for the Mount Lemmon Radio Club to be the sole grantee in this group. For now, MX Group 7 has been dissolved. The grant of the Mount Lemmon Radio Club raises a question of whether either application is grantable because of a provision in 73.811A of the rules, which states that no facility will be authorized in excess of 1 watt ERP at 450 meters height above average terrain. If this station is authorized with 1 watt of effective radiated power, it will technically have the capability of a 160 watt LPFM station. But in the real world, it's unlikely to perform that way. The Ministerios application is in a similar situation. We'll see how the FCC handles this. Let's move to California and MX Group 13. 1 day after the 60-day period, Forks of Salmon Community Club filed a minor amendment to change channels and break themselves out of the MX group. These types of amendments can be filed at any time, and it has been accepted by the FCC. This will dissolve the MX group and make both applications grantable. A significant mountain range separates Humboldt and Siskiyou counties, which means no interference concerns between the 2 stations. REC predicts a pair of grants in this MX group. We move to the California coast, and in MX Group 14, the Marina Foundation amends their application to add their Secretary of State documentation. There are no other viable channels for either applicant at their current locations. Marina can still lose a point because their Secretary of State documentation was not on the original filing, and Beat Poet can lose a point because their established community presence date is later than 2 years prior to the close of the window. This group can default into an involuntary timeshare. Since Marina's present state could not be verified at the close of the window, Beat Poet is predicted to have first dibs on the time slots in the event of a default. Let's move across the country to Florida with the 5-member MX Group 31 in Ocala. During the 60-day Education Through Media Foundation, no relationship to K-Love, apparently saw REC's prediction or just realized that they claimed an established community present points that they are not entitled to. They amended to remove that point, which puts them down to a natural 4 points. So when the points public notice is released later this year, there will be 4 tentative selectees right out of the box, each with 4 points. During the 90-day settlement period, either 2 or 3 of the applicants, with the exception of Encouragement Ministries, can enter into a timeshare agreement in order to aggregate their points. Rolling Hills Broadcasting is located in an area a bit more remote from the others, and as a result, does have other channels once the major channel changes can be made. In previous predictions, we called for them to break out of the group, and that's what we still expect them to do. That will leave 3 equally qualified 4-point applicants and Encouragement Ministries in the group. Now, if nothing is done, then the group will default into 3 8-hour non-renewable licenses, with Ministerio having first choice of the time slots, followed by Ocala Broadcasting Foundation, and then Education Through Media, who was not able to verify their established community presence date. In this scenario, Encouragement Ministries would be dismissed. However, if there's a situation where 2 of the applicants decide on a timeshare agreement to aggregate, the lone remaining 4-pointer can change to another channel, and this could open the door for Encouragement Ministries to be able to take up a free channel, which could be a win for all 5 applicants. All applicants in this MX group should contact REC to see if we can work out a universal settlement. That way, no one has point pledge obligations. Down the road in Orlando, an MX Group 33 Latino Broadcasting Foundation filed an amendment stating that they were adjusting some points that were claimed erroneously, but they didn't make any actual changes to the application. They also state that they'll be making some kind of a major change in the upcoming 90-day window. Orlando, like many other metropolitan areas, it's very difficult to find a channel. While 91.9 may show as available as long as you get a waiver from the local TV6 station, WATB-LD, this channel has had a long history of objections from Bible Broadcasting Network, licensee of WYFO in Lakeland, which has 3 translators in the Orlando metropolitan area that apparently use WYFO for its input over the air. The LPFM stations are very close to 2 of these translators. If these LPFM stations do not move off of 91.9, they'll have a very long battle ahead. For Latino Broadcasting, we have previously predicted that they will lose 3 points. This is because of their established community presence date being after 2 years prior to the close of the window, but also because of their main studio location. On their original application, they indicated that their main studio was at 302 Iowa Woods Circle. That address is more than 10 miles away. Actually, since the applicant's headquarters, or at least 75% of the board members, are not within 10 miles of the transmitter site on their original application, regardless of any amendments that they may file, they are not considered a local applicant at the time of the original application, and therefore their application can be dismissed. This may require a challenge. Because of all the issues that Latino Broadcasting is facing, as well as the potential for BBN to object to anything that goes on 91.9 in Orlando, REC is predicting no winner in MX Group 33. We now move north to the state of Georgia. In the greater Atlanta area, MX Group 36 has applicants in Canton and Roswell. Casa de Dios filed an amendment to stay on the same channel, but move to the southeast towards Alpharetta to break out of the MX Group. Both applicants are now accepted for filing as singletons, dissolving the MX Group. While this move dissolves the MX groups and makes the points moot, the requirement that an LPFM station must have its headquarters or 75% of the board within 10 miles still applies. All of Casa de Dios's Secretary of State documentation shows a location in Jonesboro, Georgia, which is to the south of Atlanta and is well over 10 miles from the transmitter site. None of their addresses are within 10 miles, and in addition, 40% of their physical board members are not reported as U.S. citizens, which can raise an alien ownership controversy. If Casa de Dios is challenged, they will likely face a dismissal. We show CPC of the WMM Canton as the only applicant from this group that is likely to get a grant. Now we go for the long haul to MX Group 38 in Hilo, Hawaii. Hawaii Developmental Disabilities Foundation filed a minor modification to change to 93.5, an intermediate frequency channel, in order to break out of the MX Group. We're expecting a grant of this application. Na Leo o Hawaii may get challenged for a signature violation. The original application was signed by a person who is not a party to the application or on the corporation documents. We predict that Na Leo o Hawaii will be dismissed on a challenge. If Na Leo is dismissed, then Hawaii Developmental can request a change back to 104.3. Back stateside to MX Group 39 Climate March versus CPC of the WMM Des Moines. During the 60 days, CPC amended their application to improve their educational statement and changed their board members, including some that magically turned from aliens into U.S. citizens. They also updated their main studio from Carrollton, Texas to Des Moines. The latter can be considered as an attempt to improve comparative position. REC predicts that Climate March will lose their tribal point claim at the point's public notice. A challenge may be necessary to bring CPC's issues of the original main studio and the alien ownership concerns to light. We predict Climate March will be the only winner in this MX group. CPC is predicted to go down for either points or alien ownership. If they go down on points, Climate March will have point pledge obligations such as local programming and a staffed main studio. Out to Louisiana, SpringQuest has withdrawn their application, leaving only the Wade Rathke application, Shreveport Community Radio, as a singleton and dissolving the group. While Shreveport may meet a challenge like many Rathke applications have, we are predicting a grant for this remaining application. On to Monroe, Louisiana, MX Group 45, Old Time Radio Studies and Creativity Project is on the REC garbage list for a signature violation. They attempted to amend their application to try to fix that violation. This application is subject to challenge, which could lead to its dismissal. As previously stated, Centro Compassion claims established community presence since 2013. However, their corporation documents show an incorporation date of September 13, 2023. We will predict an adjustment of their score and their established community presence date. We predict that Old Time Radio will be dismissed, and Monroe Community Radio and Centro Compassion will be tied with 4 points. Even with the adjusted established community presence date, Centro Compassion will have the choice of the 12-hour time slots in the event that the group does default to involuntary time sharing. Sliding over to Mississippi, we go to MX Group 57 with 4 applicants. Mississippi College amends to correct their established community presence date to January 24, 1826. It was originally January 1st, 1826. This change is allowed, however, is moot because their original application does not include any state documents that demonstrates their established community presence date. Mississippi College is a private institution and needs to have articles of incorporation. With all the previous adjustment predictions we've made in this group, it's still going to be Mississippi College and Crazy Faith Foundation as the lead applicants in this group. People's Advocacy is subject to a challenge for a signature violation. Since we can't confirm Mississippi College's local community presence date due to a lack of documentation on the original application, we predict Crazy Faith will have the choice of time slots in the event of a default, even if a challenge is needed to get to that position. North Carolina, MX Group 59, Ambassador Christian School attempts to correct their signature violation. We expect this application to be dismissed, and American Broadcasting Company, no relation to the Walt Disney Corporation, will be the remaining singleton. Out to Puerto Rico, and one of our 2 largest MX groups, number 75. Iglesia Cristiana amended to include a Channel 6 consent letter for W06DAD. This is allowed. We're still predicting that 4 of the 7 applicants will be tied for the lead, and if the group defaults, the 3 checked applicants will be in an 8-hour involuntary timeshare. San Juan, Toa Alta, MX Group 81, Senda Radio Broadcasting has withdrawn their application. Sensibilidad 101's application has been accepted for filing. We predict a grant for them. Tennessee, MX Group 87, Hixson Healthy Lifestyle Radio amends their application to move to intermediate frequency 96.9. Both them and Summer Cares have been accepted for filing as singleton. Barring any issues with either application, we predict that they will both be granted. We now move to Texas, MX Group 88. The FCC dismisses Alert Community Broadcasting for not being a valid corporation. This leaves Ministerios La True Radio and Pulse Media Broadcasting. Previously, we adjusted 1 point from Ministerios because their established community presence date is later than 2 years prior to the window close, thus making both applicants with 4 points. We previously suggested that Pulse Media could move to 95.7, making both applicants singleton. If Pulse makes that change, we predict 2 singleton grants. Let's move to the Metroplex with MX Group 90. CPC of the WMM Grand Prairie has filed an amendment to move southeast in order to break out of the group. They are currently accepted for filing. Previously, we addressed concerns regarding CPC's Fort Worth application and proposed an adjustment of 1 point for established community presence. We are still predicting that LGBTQ Saves will win MX Group 90 on points with pledge obligations. Barring any issues with the FCC, CPC Grand Prairie is expected to be granted on the same channel as a singleton. Still in Texas, MX Group 94 for New Waverly and Huntsville. Spirit Media has filed an amendment that changes their location and channel to dissolve this MX group and make them singleton. REC predicts that both applications will be granted. Let's move on to Vermont and MX Group 102. Essex Catholic Community Radio has moved towards the southwest and just outside the 13.5-kilometer minimum distance separation to become a singleton, thus breaking up the group. The FCC has already granted the construction permit for Mount Mansfield Community Television. The Essex application is still accepted for filing. We predict the Essex application will also be granted. And finally, we go to Wisconsin and MX Group 107. Monergy breaks out of the Milwaukee MX group by moving just a bit to the west to get them out of the 23.5-kilometer minimum distance separation. Their application has already been accepted for filing. Meanwhile, in Milwaukee, REC had previously predicted single-point adjustments for both CPC of the WMM and Souls Harbor due to a lack of Secretary of State documents that verified addresses. These points may need to be adjusted on challenge. If no voluntary timeshare is reached, Souls Harbor and CPC will default to a 12-hour involuntary timeshare. Since both organizations' established community presence dates cannot be defined, we're not sure how the FCC is going to proceed where it comes to tiebreaker priority. At this time, the FCC is still working on applications that have been accepted for filing, but no decisions have been made yet. This includes applications with missing information such as Secretary of State documentation, as well as those facing informal objections and petitions denied, such as in cases that involve alleged signature violations where the person who signed the initial application is not one of the board members of the organization. So what's next? With 12 MX groups dissolved, the audio division is going to need to analyze applications in 97 MX groups to determine the points and the tentative selectees. These determinations are then circulated to the 5 FCC commissioners who will need to vote on the findings. After that happens, the points will be adopted, and that will result in one or more points public notices to be released later this year. Based on the volume from the 2013 window compared to this one, we do think that the first points public notice may come out as soon as late July or August of this year. In 2013, the FCC released 3 notices, but we had 3 times the MX groups as we did for this window. It's hard to say right now if one notice will be released or if multiple notices will go out to give the staff attorneys evaluating any challenges more time to review them. Depending on how vigilant staff is on the upfront point evaluation process, we may see a lot of challenges coming out of this window. Just a reminder that even though the 60-day window has closed, applicants can still file universal settlements involving all applicants in an MX group, including timeshare agreements, as well as minor modifications to move facilities or channels. Partial group timeshare agreements and technical amendments that do not qualify as minor will have to wait until after the release of the points public notice for that MX group. Keep up with everything going on in the filing window as it happens by going to recnet.com/window. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel. I'm Michelle Bradley, SBE Certified Broadcast Technologist. Thanks for watching.